It's February 19th, 2026 at around 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And within the last, I believe, hour and a half, the President of the United States posted on social media that he's going to be declassifying information relating to non-human intelligence, alien life, and the UFO phenomenon. And I just need to talk to someone, even if it's my phone, about this, and just get my thoughts out there. As someone who's been obsessed with this field for, multiple years, and who is, intimately involved in it in my work in a daily fashion. I need to talk about this. Unbelievably profound. So, there's a chance that nothing comes of this. I think the president needs to go about this the right way, because the information and the programs that exist within our government are very likely to be very deeply buried, and very, very deep within the deep state. And there might be certain structures in place that make accessing them very difficult. So the president needs to go about this the right way. I think if he wants to, then he will. I don't know if he really has any true intention of releasing this data or disclosing alien life to any extent. I really don't know. It's a very complex political situation, as to the state of the world and the other news going on, and the technological accelerationism that the human race is experiencing. There's a lot of factors going into disclosing or not disclosing, and for me it's too complicated to really guess. But if I had to bet on it, I think it's going to happen. I mean, as I speak, I think the Polymarket Kalshi odds on alien life getting disclosed before the end of 2026, I think it's around 25 to 30%, depending on which one you look at, which is absolutely stunning. I'll go into my thoughts a little bit, but I'm just so dumbfounded. I want to get across how profound of an experience and how weird this is for me. I try to talk to people about this stuff, and I have in the past, and just recently I quit my job with essentially no backup plan to build a startup, to build a company utilizing precognitive effect, a form of psi phenomenon, which is something that aliens, non-humans are very adept at. That's actually how I discovered the field. I've gotten used to people thinking that I'm crazy. I've gotten used to feeling very isolated in my thoughts about this stuff, and it's hard to find people to talk to this stuff seriously with. Seeing it materialize in the real world, having the President of the United States start talking about disclosure and start ordering the disclosing of files and documents and whatever, it doesn't feel real. I've spent so much time feeling very isolated when it comes to this topic, and even at some points questioning my own sanity. I don't have any history of mental illness. I'm not schizophrenic. I don't have any mental illness or anything like that. But sometimes when you have everybody in the world, when you have every major government and academic institution telling you that the data you see doesn't exist, it's extremely isolating. And finally starting to see things like this happen is unbelievably profound. I'm still processing it, and who knows what's going to come with it, and if we're going to actually get disclosure. I do think it's going to happen. The other thing I want to talk about, because I've had a lot of time to think about this stuff, because I've been interested in it for a long time, the implications of disclosure. I found the current field I'm in, this precognition effect and this psi phenomenon, through the UFO phenomenon, because when I was studying, more actively all the UFO stuff, and I was at the peak of my obsession, my favorite way to try to deduce the truth was to cross-reference independent sources. If you have different people who exist in different centuries, different millennia, who exist on different continents with no no cross-pollination of their cultures, no communication, and they both describe similar entities or similar interactions with entities or anything, any similarities regarding those things. If you cross-reference these accounts and you find what's similar, and if there's no cultural cross-pollination, it's very likely that that's going to be the truth. That's how I discovered this field of the psi phenomenon, because it's an extremely consistent motif in non-human intelligence, alien encounters, when they're interacting with humans and they're interacting with other non-humans, that they're telepathic. There's some sort of a psi phenomenon going on that they're very adept at, and that is a very consistent motif within people who have encounters with these things. I mean, there's so much on my main. I mean, I could go into the technological implications, right? Now, I mean, I've known this, but the rest of the world, or I can't say I've known this, but I've been very confident that this stuff is real, and now we're moving towards the rest of the world realizing this. Non-humans visiting Earth and that being confirmed and open in our society now, the technological implications are profound. I mean, that means that or it almost certainly means that there's faster than light travel. These things have technology. I don't want to call them things. They're conscious entities just like us. These beings have faster than light travel. And you think of the physical implications of that. I mean, I'm not a physicist. I don't have a mathematical or theoretical physicist, theoretical physics degree. I'm not an expert ontologist, any of these things, but from my understanding, I mean, that causes causality paradoxes, and you can look into what a causality paradox is. It faster than light travel means that we are wrong about our understanding of the universe in an incredibly fundamental way. There are things that are possible. There are mechanisms that act within our universe that are so incredibly weird and we can't comprehend. How the hell does a causality paradox manifest in the real world? If you do a thought experiment, right, you can look these up. You do a thought experiment where you assume faster than light travel, and that can lead to issues where effect precedes cause, right? The effect, something happening, comes before temporally the cause, the thing that made it happen. Like my car starts to move and then I hit the gas pedal, things like that. How the hell does that manifest in the real world? What I mean, the implications when you start to figure stuff like this out, I mean, the science that we're gonna have open to us and the ontological understanding of our universe, I mean, it's so profound. I mean, it's beyond just being alone. Like not being alone in the universe is the least of our worries. Things like faster than light travel, things like psi phenomena, telepathy, precognition, consciousness-based phenomenon. This heavily alludes to the fact that consciousness is fundamental. That's a scientific proof of God. It's unbelievably profound. I'm not going to say certainly. That's very likely when you start to follow these things, the logical pathway of these things. I think that there's a very good chance this leads to a scientific understanding of God. I mean, unbelievably profound. Unbelievably profound. And being involved in this field and I know people who were abducted, or I'll say claim to be abducted. But I know some of these people, and even the ones I haven't met, who I've just heard about and studied. I can only imagine what they're going to go through as this continues to happen, as disclosure continues to happen. I mean, their entire lives, they have this insane anomalous experience, and they know it happened, and everybody in their life, in most cases, their friends, their family, the government, academic institutions, everyone says they're crazy. No one believes them. And these people have to go through life experiencing that. I mean, you take a guy like Travis Walton, and if you don't know, if you haven't, heard his experience, you just look it up. That guy, I can only imagine what he's gone through since his experience. I can only imagine he's just completely, the isolation that I feel just being a researcher in this field. Imagine what these other people who have had more hands-on experiences, the isolation that they feel in these experiences that they have. And it almost brings me to tears thinking about what people like that are experiencing right now. the otherworldly relief that people like Travis Walton will have when society stops telling them they're crazy and believes them. I mean, this is a thing in, pop culture. It's a big, you think about the Me Too movement, and there's a whole empathetic philosophy where it's like, we should believe women who claim to be victims of sexual assault even if there's no hard evidence, because imagine, assuming that they're telling the truth, imagine if people didn't believe them, imagine how the suffering that would be caused by that, how horrible and isolating that would feel if a woman was raped and no one believed them. That exists on a tenfold scale when you're talking about ontological truths and having real physical encounters with non-human beings. I mean, God, these people who have had encounters, it's unbelievable thinking about what they must be going through, and the relief that they're going to have, and the burden that they've carried with them their whole lives since their encounter, and the relief that they're going to have from this. It's unbelievable. It's hard for people to tangibly interact with this stuff because obviously it's locked down in government, and the field of research of Psi is very small. I guess you can participate in that. I encourage everyone listening to this and who has an understanding of what's going on and what's going to happen with the future, just be intellectually involved. Be intellectually involved. Really take the time. I don't care if you don't consider yourself an intelligent person. You don't need to be an intelligent person. Take the time to sit down and examine the evidence and ponder the consequences of that evidence, and try to get a glimpse into what the future could hold. It's unbelievably inspiring. It's going to cause more change than humanity. It's going to cause more change than the invention of the internet. It's going to cause more change than the agricultural revolution, the industrial revolution. I mean, there's a very good chance that humanity enters a literal technological utopia where we get access to this technology that ends poverty, that greatly increases lifespans if it doesn't allow for mortality. We're talking about potential time travel. We're talking about faster than light travel. We're talking about being able to interact with intelligent non-human entities, our brothers and sisters in the stars. And I think it's very important that people think about them like that we don't other these aliens. I know there's obviously there's going to be stigma. It's literally something that's not accepted, and the existence of these aliens, but they're intelligent, conscious entities just like humans are, and they deserve to be treated like it. We need to keep that in mind. So please think about this stuff from a philosophical point of view, and really try to engage with it intellectually. And the other thing that I can say, in order to prepare yourself for this and to get involved, is to study and interact with psi phenomena. I've figured this out with my personal research and studying the research of other people. Things like precognition and potentially remote viewing are real, depending on how you define it. Precognition is 100% real. Depending on how you define remote viewing, most likely real. Telepathy, almost certainly real. This start engaging with this stuff. Humans have an ability to utilize these effects. I've proved this with the research I've done, and other researchers have done this as well, have gathered great data. Start to try to understand these phenomena and try to practice it and interact with it in your daily life. Practice precognition, practice things like remote viewing, practice telepathy, and you'll be ahead of the curve, and you'll be better prepared than everyone else. And I'm not going to tell the people listening to this to evangelize, because honestly I don't think it works, and I think it can isolate people. So maybe don't do that. I haven't had great results trying to evangelize. In my experience, you could present like the best argument in the world, and the stigma and the societal non-acceptance overrides any evidence or argument that you could present. That's all I have. I just needed to get this off my chest. I'm unbelievably inspired. I want the people listening to this to be unbelievably inspired and optimistic for the future. We are so lucky to be experiencing, in my opinion, the rebirth of our species and our civilization. That's all I have.